I'm gonna sit myself down as I'm live. Yep, y'all gonna see me go clunk and this is real. It's live because I was not. Look at this. Now I'm gonna make sure that Kim and I are the same. We should have done this behind the scenes, but no. Why? Why bother? No one's watching anyway. See, there's 0 people, so nobody saw that except those people on the replay. If you saw all that, I know you're watching the replay and you're going, oh my gosh, why did this woman not do that beforehand? But that's all right, because we just didn't. Because we didn't. So I'm here today with my friend Kim White, who is of the My Sexy Business team. I'm going to add that to your title. I'm going to edit your name. Look at that right here live. Go like that.
I'm glad to be here with you, Cindy Lou.
I'm so glad to see you. When before all of this, and I came over and got to hang out with you and do this besties, it was so much fun.
Definitely.
Business team. Make sure I get this right. Because people need to know where to find you.
Thank you.
Is that the best place for them to find you? Hopefully it is, because that's what I've just put there now.
It is. MySexyBusiness.com.
So, hey, welcome to our listeners. Please comment, let us know who you are, say hello. We are talking today about women because it's International Women's Day. It's actually the day after where I live, but that's okay. We won't tell anybody.
I didn't realize that.
Right? But a lot of people are doing like 3 days of celebration. Somebody's doing 72 hours of events.
Wow.
Yeah. There's all kinds of events over on Clubhouse, which is where I'm hanging out most of the time. So for those who have been wondering, where have I been other than my weekly lives that I do here? This is one of them that's usually only on my Bold Impact page. And today I've decided to do it on my personal page too, because I want to say hello to my friends and family. And there are some women that I really wanted to give a hey ho to and say how amazing they are. And those women would be my daughters, who would see me only on my personal page. Possibly. I don't think that they all follow me on my business page. Maybe they do. But I'm hoping that they see this, and I want them to know how flipping amazing they are and how wonderful it is that I get to be their mom and watch them as the women that they are now, because each one of them has their own unique self and their unique being, and they're all dealing with something that's been super traumatic in their lives. A couple of them are medical. One of them's more, well, actually all 3 of them have major medical issues, either in their lives or the lives of a loved one. And they're like getting through it, and they're raising themselves back up. And I just wanted to say, I'm so proud of you. I love you. So, and I brought on my friend Kim, and anyone else who wants to come on. If you'd like to come on, just put in the message in the comments there. Hey, I'll pop on with you, and I will send you the link, and you can pop on and say hello. So yeah, mostly women today, please, because we're doing International Women's Day. So this is my friend Kim White of My Sexy Business team, and she does amazing things. She is doing a magazine right now to highlight people, and I think I'm in the first one, and I still haven't seen it yet, Kim, but I will.
I was just going to grab it. I was just thinking the same thing. This is like the front of it. Well, I don't know if you can.
Hold on. Let me give you the whole screen. I'll solo you. There you go.
It's not coming in very well with my little light.
Yep. Go back a little bit. Yep.
Go back.
Yep. There you go. Right there.
Okay.
Yeah. See, smile pretty. Be the Vanna thing. Do the Vanna thing.
That's the cover. Well, I want to show you. I want to be the Vanna for you because I want to show you right there. That's one of them. You are in more than one place, but that's one of them.
Oh, fun. When I was giving my speech, I think.
You're actually in there for your speech, and you're in there for your book, and I don't remember what all else, but you're scattered through there.
Yay. Thank you so much. And I see that you have all the posties behind you.
I do. I'm
What a great background for you. That's like so perfect. My gosh, Kim, I love it.
I am teaching right now sticky note time to some people, and that's what my background is, so I just left it.
I'll never forget the first time I did sticky note time with you in person, and you were like watching me as I was like writing down everything I could think of. And you're
Yeah.
like, well, not quite.
Actually, writing everything down is the thing to do because you cannot move forward unless you're clear. And getting clear, that's my little kindergarten princess way of doing it, but it has served me well and served like the thousands of people I've taught it to well because clarity brings progress. Clarity is what makes you move forward. And I think about this day, the International Women's Day, and I want to like join you with the celebrating of all the women who got clear and impacted us, impacted what we do today by what they chose to do, whenever that was, because this isn't a just now thing. We've been impacted by a lot of women over the years. They blazed a trail for us. And so
Absolutely.
I just
Yeah.
wanted to add that.
Yeah. So I know we'll forget some people, but let's mention a few of them. Tiffany Lee Bymaster got us to go live, right? With purpose. Because I was going live already, but I didn't have any rhyme or reason to it, right? And then I wanted to kind of take it to that next level. And not that Tiffany's is not next level, but I found another program with Molly Mahoney, and I loved what she was doing because I needed more confidence on camera. And that's what I needed for me and my journey. It's not that anyone is any better or, they're just different. And that's so important to realize that we're all different. So young Pratt, who got us both to do podcasts.
Yep.
Right? Like threw us in the deep end and it's like, let's do it in a weekend.
Yes.
And in a weekend, we had all of the pieces put together to do our podcast.
Yes.
Who else?
Oh my goodness, there's a million people. I think of Connie Myers and her, I don't know if you know now, she's doing like a whole disaster preparedness. And in the next 5 years, she will impact 30 million people with her program. She's already up to, I don't even know what number. That's one that I think of for this day.
And she's how old now doing this?
I believe she just turned 71 in October.
So for those who are saying that they're too old to do something, you are not.
Yes, that's right. Christy Bridges. I always think of her when I think of celebrating women because she not only is making a huge impact, but she celebrates other women. She, like, on purpose, weekly, actually, she does an interview almost every week with another powerful woman. And it's really, to be connected to that kind of a circle is important. So if you're listening and you're not connected to Cindy Lou, you need to get connected to her, because having that support of other women, being connected to other women, I think it's really important.
So y'all, she's looking at my face on her screen, and I'm going to tell her she needs to look at the camera.
I want to look at you. You're right. I am. I almost need something to like close my, or make it where I can't see you, because I'm going to keep looking at you. I'm sure of it.
Pretend that we're in Clubhouse right now, and you're just talking by looking at your camera.
Busted. How can I say that any other way than I am guilty?
So for those who are watching, like, do you see the difference? Do you see the difference when she looks at, and I get to cheat because her face is underneath. So here's how I cheat, Kim, is I make sure. Yeah, I make sure. So I'm all about shortcuts, right? I'm all about shortcuts. So what I do is I actually put your photo right under my camera. So I move my whole browser so that the person I'm talking to is right under my camera. And that way, if I start looking at them, which I do too, it looks like I'm still looking at my camera.
I love it. Yes, I am definitely guilty, and I do this all the time on my Facebook Lives and on interviews. And I laugh because I would say the same thing you do, Cindy Lou, but I don't do it. Like, you are exactly right.
I know it's so it and if you have big beautiful eyes like Kim, it's more
Oh,
noticeable.
thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm gonna do
So
my best.
I want to I want to so I have to say my mom, right? Because my mom brought me up with free to be yourself. Like she is the hat woman. She would be seen with a hat. I don't even know if I have any hats around here, but usually I come on with a hat now and again to honor my mom, and I have all different kinds because she has all different kinds. And she's the one who taught me don't be afraid to be yourself. Like be who you
Mm.
are and don't worry about it. And she's the one who let me make those pants.
I was gonna say, Cindy Lou, that's one of my favorite stories on the planet, and I can't tell you how many times I have quoted you and told that story, probably wrong. I think for this day, it would be a celebration to celebrate you if you would tell that story because it really is impactful.
Yeah. I was in the sixth grade. I think I was 11 years old. You're bound to 11 when you're in sixth grade. And I wanted to make myself, I was learning how to sew and I wanted to make myself a pair of pants. So I might have actually only been in the fifth grade. I was fifth or sixth grade. I don't remember exactly, but it was young, right? Like 11 years old, 10, 11. And my mom she's a seamstress. Like she's amazing. I can't even, yeah. Anyway, she's just amazing seamstress. So she was teaching me how to sew, and I was like, "Oh, I want to make my own pair of pants." And I went and picked out the pattern at the store, and it was those big old bell bottoms because they were fun. And I went and picked out the material, and then I put them together, and I had 4 different materials. I had neon green and neon pink and neon yellow with patterns on it. So I had 2 that were solid, so like neon pink and a neon green. And I made them like a front and a back panel. And then the opposite panels had the neon yellow with the opposite color. So if it was the neon pink in the front, then it had the yellow with the neon green paintbrushes, I think it was. And then the back was the opposite it had. So you get the picture, right? You can picture these pants. It's 19, let's see, 73, 72, somewhere around there, 72, 73. And so bell bottoms, neon colors, they were the in thing. Not quite like that though. And I thought they were the most amazing pants. I'd stayed up all night to sew them so I could wear them to school. And I walked into the classroom and I'm thinking I look amazing till the whole class laughed at me.
Mm.
And in that moment, I actually said in my head, I didn't realize I said this till years later. I'm never going to create again. Like I stopped creating and then I still did a little more for the next 2 or 3 years, but eventually it just got to the point where people laughed at my creations and I let their laughter stop me from being boldly who I am. And I stopped wearing color to the point that my children, so to go from that to my children saying, Mom, there are other colors besides black. You do know that, right? Like, they exist, right? Everything in my wardrobe was black. Every dress, every skirt. And I went through a 5-year period of depression. And that's when I like literally everything I bought was black. And I didn't even think about the fact that all was happening kind of at the same time. And my children got me to start wearing color. It was one of my daughters who's like, Mom, you can wear color. It's okay. And I started wearing color again.
But that is such a big, it's a true story, but it's still an analogy for your life and for what your business does for other women, helping them actually be their bold, whatever colors they want to put together, selves and to celebrate their wild pants or celebrate their wild personality or celebrate whatever it is that really lights them up. So I appreciate the fact that you share that story. I think I was witness of you telling that story for the first time in years, and I will confess I bawled.
I
I
did
cried
too.
because I think we've all had that moment or moments of not feeling good enough or not feeling like we could be our ourselves. I have toned myself down a lot of times because I'm pretty extra. Um, and I've toned myself down so that I didn't feel uncomfortable with other people who were like calmer than I am. And I think it's sad that we as women don't celebrate those differences. And I make a purpose to, and I know you do too. We purpose to do that now. We celebrate those differences because we should. I mean, that's
Yeah.
just the bottom line. We should celebrate however God created you to be. Let's celebrate that.
Yeah. And God could have created you to be super quiet. So be super
Absolutely.
quiet. Like I always want to say that to people because I don't want them to think that be bold you and becoming bold you means that you have to be loud. I will be, but you don't have to be. Right? So
But being bold is not about the level of sound. It is totally about, listen to me taking over for your business. I'm sorry. But it's all about the confidence part, being bold in who you are and how you are, and celebrating your own self first. I think that's one of the keys to getting going into a room confidently. One of my favorite things to talk about confidence is if if you go into a room and you don't feel the need to compare yourself to anyone else in the room, that's true confidence. And I feel like that is what you are demonstrating, one, with your wild pants, but you also are giving other people permission, not that they need it, but they think they do, giving them permission to celebrate and be confident in whatever they're made to be. Quiet, loud, you know, not so colorful, really colorful, whatever it is. So I appreciate you, Cindy Lou, on this day, and I honor you for giving space to all the, especially the creatives, that you help people. And can I tell on you? Is that okay?
you can. I'm just laughing. Before you go there, I'm just laughing because I've got like my black jacket on today. But I did go and find like this because it has color in it, right? Like and put it on because I was like, I can't go on just with, but I'm freezing. And so it's a cold day here in New Zealand. And then this is like dark purple. So that's kind of on brand, but it's like I've got all the dark on and we're talking about color, but I have my right glasses. So we're good. That's just funny. I just found that hilarious, but anyway.
But that is what you do. We just came out of a room on Clubhouse. And that was the thing that I appreciated, even about the conversation that was going on in that room, is you are helping people however they are. And I think that building that confidence in someone, we all need that. I am not immune. You're not immune. Like that is something, even at 54, I'm 54 years old, and I still have areas that I need to work on with confidence. And I'm probably one of the most confident people like I know, but yet I still have areas I push to get better at. So I think that that's a really important part of what you're doing to help other women to overcome that, that insecurity, that time that someone laughed at them, or that time that someone said they weren't good enough, or whatever their story is. So I honor you on National or International Women's Day, even if it was the day before.
Yeah, it's International Women's Day on the 8th of, is it 8th? Yeah, the 8th of March. And we're celebrating that today. We're celebrating women. And this show usually has two women on it with me. Cassandra, who has a friend there, and she's paying attention to her friend, which I love. But I want to say, Cassandra, I love doing online with you. I love that how she actually formulated my book. She reformulated. I think it's interesting that my Becoming Bold You book did not come out until after I told the story about the pants and realized that I needed to release my own creativity into the world again. Like that completely set me free. And then, oh my gosh, my daughter's joining us. Oh! Okay, I'll bring you in just a minute, my daughter. So, and then Cassandra and I had a 6-hour conversation where we talked about everything in her life and going through her life. And I realized it wasn't that I needed to put the guide out that was going to be like the what it is. I needed to put out the how to believe and how to think about personality and putting that on, and that you don't have to be the description.
Oh,
And you
that's
don't have to
good.
become the description. So you get to become Bold You. All right, Miss Shannon, are you ready? Thumbs up. Yep. So she's ready. Unmute the microphone. Oops, I think we unmuted it. You have to choose to unmute it yourself. This is my daughter, Shannon, and Kim White. I don't know if you've met Shannon.
I have not, but if you want to take me down so you two can visit, you're welcome to.
Well, I wanted her to meet you first.
It's nice to meet you, Shannon.
Nice to meet you as well. I just finished up my workday, so I thought I would pop in. This is reversed, so I'm trying to figure out which direction I need to move myself.
I'm trying to make sure that I follow your mama's advice and look where I'm supposed to on the camera. I still am having trouble.
That's right. Look at the camera, not at the person on the screen. But it's so hard because you want to feel like you're looking at that person, right? And I think in life that happens a lot. We think what we're doing is giving a certain message. But what people are seeing is something completely different.
Yes.
And that's one of the biggest messages with becoming Bold You, is to realize that just because you think you're being kind and generous and all of those things, if you're not actually perceived as kind and generous, then something in you needs to shift. And you need to put on maybe some of the devoted personality, the like more loving and more gentle, and you need to let go of some of your own idiosyncrasies or whatever you want to call them, your own like habits. So
I think the drive to kind of look at the screen, there's a small part that's a bit egocentric as well, in also checking what you look like. And what are you presenting to them?
I was taught to look in someone's eyes. So it fights everything in my entire life to look at something other than like who I'm speaking to. I feel like it almost makes me check out in a way, because I need to look in your eyes. I need to see what you're saying with your eyes.
That's the piece. That's the piece, is we're looking for the response back.
Right?
Yeah, I just spent an entire day on Zoom calls with my students. So I had to keep reminding myself to look at the camera and not at the screen, just to give them, that level of respect. And so that they, it was debriefs from their clinical rotations. So some sort of sensitive or personal stuff can come up in those. And it's just, it's a moment where I want to make sure that they're feeling heard and felt.
Can't respond if I'm muted. Let me unmute you too.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I think I need to get some eyes and put by my camera hole. And then that way it will satisfy that.
That's a good idea. We should totally make like a little clip that people can buy that clips over their camera hole. Oh, Shannon, you're muted. Oh, did I mute you?
I have a ton of googly eyes in the craft cupboard. I could just stick them.
Yeah, totally. All right. Well, Miss Kim, thank you so much for joining me. Do you want to go now? Or do you want to hang out? Either way. I'm good with you hanging. Okay, so I'm good with you hanging. I just didn't want to hold you up. Yep. So Miss Shannon, you missed it at the beginning. I honored all three of you girls. And I didn't go into any specifics, but I just said you've all had some major medical challenges, either with yourselves or those that you love. and that
Mhm.
all three of my girls are rocking it as far as continuing with life and not letting that stop them.
Yeah, I'm a year and a half, just over a year and a half out, or about a year and a half out from the embolisms. So
She had multiple embolisms in both lungs, and her doctor had the nerve to say, "This should have killed you."
yeah, as I was lying in the cardiac critical care, he said to feel lucky because I should not be here. They're called submassive because of the size. So that's just one step below massive. I think it was 7 clots between the 2 lungs.
Wow.
Yeah. Yes, very scary. Still dealing with a lot of panic and anxiety and PTSD from the entire situation. But slowly working on it and improving. And I've certainly come from a couple months after going to the emergency room pretty regularly with panic attacks, because the symptoms of the panic attacks were so similar to the symptoms of the PEs that I just thought that I had new PEs. And kind of learning to live a new norm. So I lost about a quarter of my lung tissue in my right lung. It just died off because there was no blood flow to it. So I have, it's faint, but it's there. Like, I have regular sort of ache, and this new norm of having to have a mask, which is making me have to breathe harder, is sort of exacerbating that. So just, coming to terms that this is just a long-term thing that I'm going to have to deal with. On the flip side too, though, it's like a reminder, like I did make it through, and I am alive, and I am here.
That's what I was going to say. I'm glad you're here for Women's Day.
Yes.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Me too. Like, and I was in New Zealand and had no way to get there. Right. So, and yeah, and my kids were in America and had no way to get to me when I'm in the hospital getting my pacemaker in 2014. So we've just experienced, as a family, we have experienced massive amounts of medical challenges. And when I tell the whole story, which I told a lot of it yesterday in a room last night before I went to bed, and they were just like, wow, you guys have been through, and I don't even think about it. Like, I think that we look at today, and this is, I'm sure it's from me, as far as my kids and how they deal with it, is we look at today and what can I do? It's like that had to become my mantra. And
yeah, so I have a new, but up here, this green one says that at the end of the day, the only questions I will ask are, did I love enough? Did I laugh enough? Did I make a difference?
Yeah, and laughter is so important.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I have more recently sort of reflected on all that our family have gone through kind of throughout the years, and to be sort of at where we are and as resilient as we are and as solid as we are is pretty amazing to me in terms of just our family.
Yeah, because in general, you siblings are all still talking to one another and supporting one another and being there for each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is, I think, nothing short of miraculous with everything that we've all been through.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many things that could have easily broken us. Like, broken to the point of non-repair. There are so many, like, I think just back on my own life, like the fact that I am here is great, but the fact that I'm not addicted to drugs, because I was, the fact that I'm healthy, even despite all I've been through, that I'm able to be mentally healthy, despite all of the things that I've been through. I remember talking to, who's now a good friend of mine, sort of about my life. And she just was like, I never would have guessed that you had been through all of that.
Kim, I would love for you to talk about that for a minute, because you interview tons of people for Hope to Hope. Your yearly. So Kim's, can I tell on you a little bit? Can I tell a little of your story, or do you want to tell it?
Sure. No, go ahead. You go ahead.
Kim's teenage son was killed in a hunting accident. And she was faced with, how do I deal with this? How do I do that? And out of that came a Hope to Hope, that she interviews people and lifts up their story and brings hope to the world.
Yes, ma'am.
And how have you found that to be helpful for you?
You know, when my son passed away, I really didn't think I would survive it. That's the honest truth. I didn't think I would survive. I was really kind of angry the next morning when the sun came up, because I was angry that God let it come up. My world had ended, I felt like, and now everything was just going on like nothing had happened. And so I was very, very upset, obviously. But over time and over much prayer and, going through the grieving process, because it is definitely a process. And I think everybody's grief looks different. I want to say that out loud too. But going through that process, I realized that I could stay in that place of, being upset and stay in that cycle, or I could do something that would change and help other people get through it also. And so giving hope, which is what I needed the hope that I wasn't always going to feel like I was going to die right there. I needed the hope to know that I could I needed the hope so that I could look at the camera hole when I'm supposed to. I needed the hope that that his life mattered while he was here. And the way I found to do that was to celebrate him every year and tell his story, but also allow others to tell their story on a platform that didn't exist before that, where people could get hope, because we need hope. And then we go through something, like we get past one thing and then we need hope again for something else. So that was the reason I named it that, is we always are in need of hope. And so I laughingly tease that I am the hope dealer. I am one that wants to deal out the hope if I can find people who will join me. And I'm always looking for amazing humans to tell their stories. I want to say that. Cindy Lou, you've been a guest how many times? So I think that that's a big part of when we go through something. We can either stay there and be upset about it, or we can get up out of what I call the dirt, get up and brush ourselves off and find out what we can do with those broken open places. I think we're not broken apart. I think we're broken open. When you're broken apart, it's like you don't have hope that you can be glued back together. If you're broken open, the light can shine in there and you can do something different. So that is my reasoning for the conference.
So Shannon, I think you should talk to her about telling your story.
Which one, Mom? Which one?
I know, pick one. So beyond more than 1 year.
Which one?
And And Shannon, can I encourage you with something? Cindy Lou, I hope this is okay. This is something free, so it's not like I'm
Yes.
trying to take over
Yeah,
and
no,
sell
no,
something.
you're
I
good.
want to
You're
make
good.
sure.
You're good.
But we have just completed what we're calling a story kit, because I find a lot of people with incredible stories that do not know how to exactly communicate that story. And so we have created something that asks you questions so that you can pull out the things that are going to impact others and help them, gain hope. It's actually a tool we use for our magazine to find people to interview. And so I would love to send that. I'll send it to your mama and she can send that to you, because if
You can let people know how to ask for it, Kim. We'll
well,
put it in the comments.
okay, and I'm not sure that it's working. They're working
Okay.
on the links for it, but it is on our website. But I'm not. I'd rather them ask you if you don't mind.
Okay, sure. So
it-
send me a message. Just send me a message and I'll get back to you.
But it's incredible, the stories that really most people have, but they don't share them, and so nobody really knows that they can survive things like, what you were just talking about is a really big deal. How many people are diagnosed with something and they don't think they're going to make it through it, or their doctor
7
says something?
ambulances. 7.
Yeah. So I think it's important you tell your story. That's the bottom line. I think it's important that you speak out and share those places of not just the good side. You always have to end on the good side, but you really want to tell about, how you felt. You felt hopeless for a minute, or you felt like you weren't going to survive, or you felt whatever it was.
Yeah, there's a lot of stories in my almost 40 years.
Yeah. And if you tell the story about being addicted to drugs and, your mama knowing that, but not actually confronting you, and you asking me years later why I didn't, I said, well, I went to the one who was bigger than me and could handle it. I just gave you to God. And so how I knew she was addicted, right, was my mirror in my bathroom kept falling apart. I'd come home and it would be out of its frame. So they were using the mirror to do lines in my home when I wasn't there.
Sorry, I was slow to catch up on that one. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I think you eventually, didn't you find it under my bed?
I don't know, but every time I came home, it kept falling apart. Oh, I don't know, Mom. It just fell off the wall. I'm like, yeah, okay, sure. So then I started letting them have parties at my house in the basement. So I gave them their space, but I told them I couldn't go outside because I wanted to make sure that they were safe and I knew where they were and what was happening. And I think that was part of what brought you back, was the fact that you felt loved. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's that piece. There's so many facets even just to that one part of my story. I mean, if you take snapshots of the sexual abuse as a child, the psychological and emotional abuse, my relationship with Christopher, the other relationships with my kids kind of over there, the addiction with the drugs, and the medical stuff, being a parent and having to also, my son this past year, had emergency appendectomy, and kind of dealing with that side of it as being a parent and not knowing if he was very close to a ruptured appendix, and was very, he, in the span of 5 hours, went from almost no fever to nearly 103. So there's just I am surprised sometimes when I take the time to really sit back and reflect on my life, like just in awe, I think, of how many things I've gone through, and knowing that at each of those like there was a pivotal moment at each of those experiences where I had to make the decision to move forward, to not let it get me down, to see the beauty even in the pain for what it was, and continue working. And I will say, and I know, like, there's a little bit of guilt even as I say this, because I know, like, our children's jobs are not to save us, but had it not been for my kids, I don't know. I can't with any certainty say that I would still be here. I mean, even when I was pregnant for one of my children, he saved me, and he wasn't even born yet.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
another.
that's something to feel guilty about, though. I think that's something to celebrate. I just want to speak to that part because, you know, God knows what will get us where we need to go. He is the one that allows things in our lives, and you know, you have to realize that that is a blessing and not something to feel guilty over. You didn't choose for them to change your life that way or to save your life. You didn't like throw them into the fire to, you know, to save yourself. So please rethink that, because that is not something to feel guilty. That's a blessing that they came along. I too can say that my firstborn, who is the one we were talking about passing away, when I got pregnant with him, he changed my whole life because I wasn't supposed to be able to have kids. And when I got pregnant with him, I got serious about life for the first time in my life. And it was such a gift and such a blessing. So I definitely want to speak to that mommy guilt. We have so many things we can be, you know, guilted over and all that. No mommy guilt.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's, you know, I've said it time and time again, like, my two boys are and will be the greatest accomplishment I could ever do in this lifetime.
Yeah, you
I
know,
mean,
one of the questions I ask in the 10 bold questions for the Be Bold You podcast, broadcast, whatever I'm calling it this week, is that, you know, who's the person who's had the most influence on your life? And they can be dead or alive. Like, you're talking anybody, right? Through all eternity, I'm asking, right? And who is the person that comes back 9 times out of 10? It is the mother. We have no idea, really, the impact that we have on our children. And that really is our greatest accomplishment. It is our greatest job. It is our greatest blessing to be a mama.
well, I mean, I've told you countless times, like, you've been my saving grace. You've taught me how to be a mom. And if I am even a quarter of the mom that I got from you, you know, it's, and even like, you know, half of my childhood was spent with Aunt Nancy, and she to this day, you know, like, you're my mom. And if there are two women in my life who had the most impact on me and still continue, it's you and Aunt Nancy. And, you know, she was kind of like my second mom. And I feel blessed that I got to have so much time with my cousins growing up. We were all so close in age that you know, Jamie is my sister first and my cousin second. And only because nature chose to have it that way. But, you know, my mom is my mom, and Nancy is my mom. And I'm just very thankful that I had the two of you, because I feel like there were so many times in my life that I needed one or both of you.
Yeah, I think sometimes we need that other woman in our lives. Like, I can think I had other mamas, right? And there's nothing against our own mama when we do that, right? There's certain things you can't talk about with your mama. or
I
that you
think,
choose not to.
yeah, I think for Aunt Nancy, I think part of the biggest thing was that she was the tie to dad that I needed when he was absent.
Yeah. And she is the most resilient. So, Nancy, if you're watching this, you are one of the most resilient women I have ever met in my life. And I
Yeah.
want to lift you up.
When I was going through, my separation with Dennis, and the scenario of my life and being pregnant with my second child and going through it mirrored hers. She was pregnant with her second child, like I had that, and I had that with pregnant with your second child, like it was just astounding to me that the two most important women in my life went through virtually the same experience that I was going through. So
Yeah.
yes, if you're watching, you are one of the two most important women in my life.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I look more like you than I do my mom.
She does. She looks just like her Aunt Nancy. I mean, it's almost a spitting image. It's quite funny. Which was helpful for a lot of reasons we won't go into right now. But it was helpful. And I was so grateful that Nancy was there when I was going through. I got really, really, really sick during pregnancies. I did not know at that time that I had a heart issue. So looking back, 2020, they say is perfect vision, right? 2020 hindsight. What would have been happening would be that the baby was taking all of what little heart rhythms I had, and basically, yeah. So they were, yeah. So I was not getting enough oxygen during the whole pregnancies. I would get super, super sick, and then my last two, I was drinking a lot of milk because milk's supposed to be good for you, right? The babies were allergic to milk, and I got the allergic reactions.
Wow.
So I broke out in a hives, head to toe. And it got confirmed with the last baby, but the fourth baby was the one where I was so sick because I didn't know what was causing it. I kept drinking milk. So you think about hives, and then on top of hives are more hives and more hives and more hives. By the time I mean, my face was swollen out to here, like literally swollen, and it was all hives upon hives upon hives, and just like drain. It was, you could not recognize me. I had little tiny eyes for slits for eyes, because it was everything was so swollen, and I didn't know what was happening. So
I remember you telling me about that and saying that you showed up at Grandma's house, and she said she wouldn't have even known who you were.
Yeah,
because you were so.
My mother did not know who I was. Like I looked that bad. And then I sent my kids, my older two kids. Shannon went to a lady who took really good care of Shannon and was amazing to her. That's another story that we should probably tell someday.
I was just thinking that. I'm like, oh yeah, there's also another.
They almost kept her, and I had to fight to go get her. Like there was pretty amazing things, and it was out of, I believe that the woman, it was really out of her own desire to have another child, and it was also out of her desire, or her opinion, that because I didn't contact Shannon often, that I didn't care. And the reason I didn't contact Shannon often during that time was I didn't like hearing her cry, and I cared enough to not make her cry every time. Right? If she was happy with the woman in between times, then let me just have this baby and, get healthy and then go get her. And we had written up I guess we're telling the story now. We had written up a thing saying, you have the ability to get what my child needs until I say so. And because I had that line in there, until I say so, I was able to get her pastor to go get her and tell her you need to bring her back. So, and I didn't realize they had already started putting in place the proceedings to actually ask for permanent residence or permanent custody.
Wow.
So I almost lost my daughter.
And I mean, then it was, I don't know how many years that she wrote to me secretly and
She
said,
wrote through my mother-in-law.
and I hadn't heard.
You were 4. You were too young
Yeah,
to
I was
tell that
4.
story to.
So I think I was, I want to say maybe 11, 12 when
I found out that she'd been
Yeah.
secretly writing to her.
Mhm.
And I told her the whole story as to why I had withheld her, because at that point I'm realizing that here's my child who doesn't understand why her mother is keeping her from this woman that loved her. And I needed to explain. She needed to understand why and what happened. And I said, look, if you want to keep talking to her, I'm okay with that. You're old enough now to kind of understand it a little bit more.
Yeah, and I think I did for maybe another year or two. But I don't remember anything past the age of 13, like any more communication or
That would have been about the time that grandma got paralyzed. Because it was my mother-in-law, so it was Grandma Swayze that kept that conversation going.
Yeah, but I think grandma's MS, I think that happened later.
Okay. Yeah, it might have been later.
I think I was older when that happened.
So we have no idea. I mean, something could have happened in her life where she wasn't able to communicate anymore. Yeah, she was sending gifts to Shannon for Christmas, and they were under the Christmas tree, basically, with a Santa on it. And I finally kind of went, how come Shannon
because
has
I
and
think
nobody else does?
because I think the letter that finally sort of brought it out into the open referenced, I think, one of the gifts, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and you must have said, oh, that was from so-and-so. And I'm like, what? What?
Mm-hmm. Mommy Sandy and Daddy Jerry, which is what they had me calling them.
And I'm grateful for them, right? Like, they were a Christian couple. I chose them based on meeting them and talking to them, but I'd only met them once, right? I'd only talked to them once. They only knew a piece of my story. They didn't know the whole thing. They didn't understand everything I was going through. Like, none of it. I didn't even know all of my story at that point. It's amazing how we don't know our full story while we're going through it.
It's amazing though that they did love your baby for you. Like, it might not have ended the way you wanted it to end, but having someone step up and be able to help you when you are not able to, that's a huge deal. Or at least I think that. I have actually.
It's a huge deal. I had 3 families that did that. So Nancy took Brian. And Nancy asked me later, why didn't you have Shannon come? And I said, well, I wasn't 100% sure she was welcome, right? Because at that point we were still going through the,
stuff with my dad and
stuff with, yeah. So, I just wasn't sure. And then, so Shannon went to this Christian couple, and I also didn't want to place like a ton of added responsibility on any one person. I had 3 children. The third one went to a friend of mine, and it was, so that was Louisa. She went to my friend Vernita, who, I have to mention Vernita as one of the women who has had, I'm not sure I can talk about her without crying.
You're going to make me cry because, that family and our family.
Yeah. So my sister first and my not even related second, because that's how nature had it. And she's a Black woman, multiracial, brown, Black woman. And I am in so many of their photos as the token white person until she married her husband, who was also white. And then there were 2 of us. So it was, but we just connected when I was like 17 or 18, when I was pregnant for, I don't know if I don't think I'd even had Brian yet. I think I was still pregnant. No, I must have had him. I must have been pregnant for Louisa, actually. So I was like, what? But we connected before that. No, it was way before that. Yeah, it was before that. We weren't married. Steve and I weren't married when we went and helped them. So that was a year and a half or 2 years before we got married, actually, that we went down and helped them. So yeah, I would have been 19. I would have been pregnant for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I spent the night in Vernita's bedroom, and she taught me how to like seek God and how to find that place of, and I've written, that's in Christy Bridges' book. That story's in there about just being able to find the presence of God and to enter into the silence of the night and enter into his presence and allow yourself to be carried by him and give yourself completely to him. So if anybody wants that story, I have it in a book. I can tell you which book to get it in. As written in a compilation that is for teenagers and people graduating from high school and college.
I'm
that helps
54.
them. Yeah.
I just want to point that out. That's really good stuff, though. Option Ocean is what you're talking about.
Yeah, it is Option Ocean.
It's very good. And I think it's not just for teenagers. I know that was the intention, but I think it's for even 54-year-old teenagers.
Yeah, I suppose, because it's really about what decisions are you making and how are you living your life and mindset about living and being.
Yes.
So it's a great
I
book.
just wanted to put that out there, that was, it's definitely something to get even if you're not a teenager, because it has got some good stories in it.
Yeah. So it's a devotional and it's amazing. So yeah. Vernita and your whole family, like y'all have, I would not be here and none of my children would probably, we certainly would not be here talking online and living our lives out loud and being the bold family that we are. Although I don't think we'll ever get Louisa on camera, but that's okay. She gets to be boldly who she is, and that is not a person on camera. and being able to allow your children and your friends and your family to be completely who they are and embrace, we're back around to that. So I know there's tons of other women. Dee, you know the impact you've had on our family. Susie, and I'm going to miss a ton of them. And if I haven't said your name, it's only because I don't want to be here like for 12 hours saying names. Oh, you're muted, babe.
If we're plugging names, it's only right that I plug Roni.
Yeah.
Roni. That girl, we met each other as kids. So she actually grew up with my cousin who, I spent a lot of time with, like I said, with Aunt Nancy. So she knows that side of the family and knew each other a little bit in high school. So my junior year, I went to high school there instead of here. That's another story. And then we kind of lost touch, and it was funny because back in 2010.
Now the boys, we can hear them.
Brayden, quiet, please.
Well, no, just tell them we can hear them. It's up to them if they want to keep talking. We can hear them.
So back in 2010, when I was returning to work after having my second child and going through what I was going through at the time, I was sitting in orientation and I heard a very familiar voice behind me. And I turned around and there was Roni, also in orientation, starting a job at the hospital. And I haven't been able to get rid of her since. I don't want to. But when I was going, she was my lifeline to mom when I had the embolisms. She was the one that
she went over, she called the hospital.
You know, she's
She had to call the hospital on her way to your house, right? Like she
called the ambulance. So she lives in Cornish and she's an LPN, so she's got nursing credentials, and I ask her medical questions all the time. And I texted her, and you know, it's just like something's wrong. Like I can't even get out of bed without nearly passing out. And she called me, and she could tell right away on the phone that something, just my voice, she could tell. So she got off the phone. She called the ambulance. She gave them my address. She called me back. She was on the phone with me until the EMTs got here. Once she knew I was in the ambulance, she got in her car. She drove to the hospital. She was there with me until like 2 a.m, maybe. She was there, and she was messaging mom, and you know, messaging my dad, and messaging my boyfriend, and sort of making sure everyone knew what was going on and what was happening. And
yeah. So thank you, Roni, for being you and you know, introducing me to Five Guys. So,
oh yes, Five Guys.
We're gonna go now because we've been doing this for an hour. And it's been amazing and wonderful and terrific. And I only have 15% left on my computer, so I have to stop this.
And we have to go do laundry as well. So
yay, but only for another year probably, and then you'll get to do laundry in your home. So
another story to add.
Yeah,
happy
we'll have
happy one.
Yeah, we'll have you come back and tell that story because that would be amazing. So for folks that are on my personal page watching this, would you like to see me do this again? Because I mean, I kind of had fun, just Cindy Lou and her friends and hanging out on my business page and my personal page. So
I just like grind for them.
We're gonna see you guys later. Tell the boys I said goodbye, and I love hearing their voices.
It was nice meeting you, Shannon.
Nice to meet you as well, and I will give them Mima loves.
Thank you. All right. Bye, y'all. Remember to live your life out loud and be bold, you. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you,
Shannon.
Cindy Lou.